guys, what is going on? We're going to do some game design tonight. We're continuing to work on the martial power system. We're updating. We've had some updates to the power scaling and specific power listed. So we're spot checking through all the subclasses to make sure they're all accurate, as well as making sure we have that we agree with all the mechanics that we have for all the subclasses currently. We've gone through a number of revisions over the past few months, so we're just doing document updating for now. So if you think this stuff is cool, stick around. I do game design 4 nights a week, and I do painting for the books that I publish online Monday through Friday in the morning as well. So give me a second here. I'm going to check on my signal, make sure that we're coming through okay. I'm going to do some quick social posts to announce that I'm up and running live, and then we'll get to work. So let's see. First, I want to check my volume. Looks good. Let's check our link here. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic check. Yep, sounds like I'm sounding pretty good. So I'm going to drop that away there. I'm going to grab the link here real quick. I've got a couple social media posts to do, and then we'll get into the thick of it. So if you're already familiar with the channel, you can skip ahead a minute or two if you're catching us in the future. But if you're trapped here now with us in space-time, then my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games. I illustrate them. I publish them online. And I've been creating content for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, publishing on the DMsGuild since 2018. My mouse is just responding weird right now. Got that. Okay, good. I've been a DM since 87. I've been a Magic the Gathering enthusiast since 1994. I've been a freelance illustrator since 1999, and like I said, I've been creating content specifically for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition since 2018. You know, I'm a big Magic the Gathering fan. I'm also a big D&D fan, so Wizards owning both D&D and MTG to me is just, I think that's awesome, and I think like a lot of people that are enthusiasts of color mana and role-playing games, that it would have been exciting to see a conversion of the color mana system into the 5e game mechanics, or even the 3e or 4e game mechanics. It's been 25 years since they've had control of D&D, and only in 2018 did we start seeing any attempts to take Magic and drop it into D&D as a role-playing setting with Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, then Odysseys of Theros, and then Strixhaven, Curriculum, and Chaos. By the time all 3 of those books come out, it was pretty obvious that that WotC wasn't really interested in creating an alternate Magic system to utilize with MTG, which I think is a huge shame, because they really wanted to make a footprint about like what role-playing games could be. I would say it's make Magic the Gathering a role-playing game. So I did the work for you guys, so you don't have to worry about it. I'm finished my social media postings, so now I can click, drop off the menus here, and let's roll over our screen so you guys can see what we're working on. If you think this stuff is cool, likes. Wow, we have more subscribers since this morning. Thanks a lot, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications of when we're live in the future. Down here are a whole bunch of books that I've already created on the DMsGuild. They all have free previews, so go ahead and read through them. If you think they're cool, consider making a purchase if you're into supporting the channel. Here's the Magic the Gathering books, specifically the Color Mana Spell Point variant rules. We're going to be updating all of that for 5e24, and that's part of what we're going through right now, is updating the class features to comply with both 2024 and Color Mana system that we've developed. But it's all there for 2014 already. And if you want to play along with us today, we're going to be using a Google Doc. It's a read-only document for you guys. You can look. You'll eventually have access to it when we publish on DMsGuild, along with everything else that we build. So it'll be out there waiting for you when we get to it. But in the meantime, we've got all 14 classes with every subclass in the book at varying degrees of completion, which again we're looking to rectify today. So you can click through and follow along with us. We're diving into the Ranger today. We're going to go over the class features of the Ranger, and then we're going to look at the Winter Walker Ranger that came out for Forgotten Realms subclass. I don't think we ever actually converted this. I don't see it in the document. So we have another subclass to play with, which will be fun. So we'll go through the class features, then we'll play with the Winter Walker, updating that, and then we'll just work backwards, forwards to the Swarmkeeper, etc. Until we get done with all the subclasses. I don't anticipate finishing this task this morning, rather this evening. So I also stream at lunchtime on Tuesdays. Thursday nights like this, I now stream at night as well. and Friday I do lunch as well. So I'm expecting to be done with this. If not tonight, then probably the early part of Thursday, and then we'll get into the rogue then as well. So we already went through the barbarian, the fighter. We went through paladin recently, and paladins get bonus spells, not bonus powers. So that's already current, and the last time we updated it was last month. So it's good to go. So that means we're going to skip directly down into the ranger and continue from there. Rangers get a combination of, they either, like in the player's handbook, they either get spells or they don't as bonus spells. And there's not a lot of language provided about like why, because none of the subclasses for the ranger feel particularly powerful. So, and one of our themes for this project is to make sure that every subclass has a bonus list. If it's a spellcaster, a bonus list of spells. If it's a powered channel or martial character, then they get a stack of 10 martial powers. And the ranger is a hybrid in that it comes with a few subclasses, but that have spells, but a lot of them don't, which means that we get to add a mix of either 5 or 10 powers, and if they have 10 spells, we don't give them any. If they only have 5 spells, we give them 5 complementing powers, and then if they have no spells that they gain as bonus, then we give them 10 bonus spells. So they always have the same stack of 33 things that every other spellcaster can have, whether it's power or spells. So we will be going through, this is the list of powers that we have. We've almost every session, we've talked at least a little bit about the core mechanics that go into channeling power as opposed to casting spells. So you can grab pretty much any video from this series and get a quick lowdown on how the power system works. But if it becomes relevant, I will certainly go through it again. So be welcome to ask questions down in chat if you wish. But I'm going to be doing I'm just going to be doing a lot of technical editing today, and basically back and forth looking at the list of powers that we have to make sure that the list of powers listed, like the bonus powers you get, are accurate. So, bonus powers, weird. Give me a hot second. Power list, Drake Warden. No, we're going to go up, but first we're going to look at the Ranger subclasses. We're going to look at the Ranger Scaffold, which will probably end up meaning we're going to talk about powers in general. And then we'll get into the Winter Walker specifically, and from there we'll go through all of the Forsaken subclasses. Which, we'll go through the graduated subclasses that made it from 2014 into 2024, and then we'll take the rest of the subclasses that have been Forsaken and convert them as well. So, having said that, and without any further ado, let's grab here and welcome anybody that happens to come through the channel. You're welcome to ask questions in chat down below, but otherwise, this is kind of a study hall, so be welcome to hang loose and do what you please. I'll just be talking about stuff, and we'll see what happens. So looking at the Ranger Scaffold, of course, Ranger's a half-caster. The martial power system itself operates on a half-casting system as well. So 5 ranks of power, 5 levels of spells that Rangers get access to. 1, 5, 9, 13, 17 is when we gain scaling. And let's see, the power die acts as a superiority die, martial arts die, skill die, bardic, and it plays that same sort of role, and it adds a variable. And at first level it's a D6, it becomes a D8 at 9th, and it becomes a D10 at 17th. Notice this doesn't outscale. It's not as quick of a scale as the bardic inspiration die. It's not as fast as a scale as the monk martial arts die. It's just a general, like a generic class feature for martial characters to have this power die that they can either add to D20 tests or add multiple dice to damage rolls, for instance, like healing temporary hit points and dealing damage in combat. So if you're doing a D20 test, you'll only use 1 die, and if you're dealing damage, you can stack up multiple dice, add them all together to your weapon damage that you're already dealing, or hit points that you're healing, or whatever. We have our max rank of power, 1, 5, 9, 13, 17, from 1 to 5. We have prepared powers, how many powers you can prepare, and with the martial power system, we replace the weapon masteries and fighting styles are considered powers that you can prepare. So you can prepare like all weapon masteries if you want. And you can, as feats, you can prepare basically all the fighting styles as powers instead of like spell-like effects. So you don't have to spend any mana on those things. It's as though you're just completely loading your character up with cantrips that never require mana to cast but can always be used. That's kind of how weapon masteries and fighting style feats can be considered. So you'll end up with 4 at first level, and again, you would normally get like 2 weapon masteries. You'd get a fighting style, and then you get some spells for the ranger. In this case, we get 4, so you can pick a fighting style. You can pick any number of combat masteries that you want, or you can pick spells. And of course, we'll go into learning and swapping them around. The total number of powers that you have by 20th level is 23, plus the 10 that you'll get from your bonus subclass. And the amount of mana that you get is on a short rest. The mana scales like a monk or a spell point warlock, which is linked down below. You get 1 at first level, and you'll end up with 20 at 20th level. We have action economy, again, that you can expend. What we talked about, I guess, well, we're going to talk about action economy. So just talking about that really quick. Looking at our action economy here, temporary mana is mana that lasts only during the turn in which you get it. So like in a Magic the Gathering, like if you have a Land of War elf, if you tap that elf, you won't be able to attack with it. Instead, it generates a point of mana that you can use to cast a spell. And if you have like 6 Land of War elves on the table, you can tap all of them and none of them will attack. You'll get 6 mana to throw down a big spell. Similar to that sort of mana dorking that you can do in MTG card decks, your characters using martial powers can also mana dork. So you can exchange your action economy to generate temporary mana during that turn. So like if you're taking a reaction, for instance, if your character had a way to gain multiple reactions, and you can, if you have multiple reactions, you can burn as many reactions as you want to generate mana. 1 point per reaction that you burn, which you could then use during your turn or somebody else's turn. During your turn, you can also sacrifice your bonus action. If you do, at first level, it's worth 1 mana. At 9th level, it's worth 2. And at 17th level, it's worth 3 mana. And your attacks, when you take the attack action, you can sacrifice attacks from that action to generate 1 point of mana each. So maneuvers and a lot of powers that you can channel can be done either with a magic action, which would replace your attack action, or as a bonus action. So if I wanted to channel like say channel a maneuver, and I'm 9th level and it's a 2nd rank maneuver, it'll cost me 2 mana. I could sacrifice both of my attacks to use my bonus action to use that maneuver, or I could sacrifice my bonus action at 9th level to generate 2 mana to then use a magic action instead of the attack action to be able to channel that power. If I wanted to, I could keep both of my attacks, use my bonus action to channel the power, but it'll cost me 2 mana to do it, because I would then be pulling from my mana pool to be able to cast that, to be able to channel that power. So any combination of sacrificing action economy and mana from your mana pool allows you to add up a bunch of mana for you to be able to trigger effects during your turn or other people's turns as a reaction. So that's the basic action economy and mana usage. So it doesn't seem like you have a lot of mana at first level with only 1 point of mana on a short rest. That is not a lot of mana. Again, you could choose feats and weapon masteries that don't cost any mana. You can load up on those right away at first level when you don't have a lot of mana, or you can expend a lot of action economy during combat to do less during a round, but to be able to do it using channeled powers. So you have that option to always be channeling powers or to never be using mana at all. It's completely up to you. So that's the base chassis of like how the mana works, and depending on the rank, it's 1 point per rank. Just like with our mana system, it's 1 spell point per level. And from a color mana perspective, if you were to like say, let's say we're playing a Selesnya Ranger, then Selesnya is white and green. You can play Abzan or whatever you want. It doesn't, you can play all 5 colors like Dominaria style if you wanted to. But I think I honestly think the pairings from Ravnica and from Strixhaven and Bloomborough, I like the duets the most. I think those are the quickest, easiest way to really just kind of grok how color works as like an alignment system. and makes it really easy for your characters to mirror that mechanically with mana. But with these spell points, you're basically, as Selesnya, you're basically choosing, I have white and green magic. And the mana that you generate can be any color mana that you want, but your character is choosing to limit their color palette to a specific color of magic, and that then flavors all of the magic and spells that you use. And also, like, if you run across Selesnya creatures with white and green magic dripping from them or radiating from them, as it may be, they can be, as a DM, you can express them differently as, say, the same creature that's, say, whoa, don't know what I did there. As opposed to, like, say, black and green, like a Witherbloom or Golgari type Ranger would have a very different feeling from Selesnya would, or like a Simic, blue-green would feel different from both Selesnya or Witherbloom, for instance. So you have this color identity that adds flavor to the magic that you're using, or in this case, magic that you're channeling. And if you want to be really hard-nosed about it, you can take the mana in your mana pool and assign it to a specific color. Like if you have, say, at 9th level as a ranger, on your short rest mana, you've got, like, say, 9 points. So maybe you'd have 4 in white and 5 in green. And be like strikes and maneuvers are white, reactions and exploits are green, and then sustained powers are both white and green, for instance. So when I trigger a strike power as white magic, I'm going to describe it using white magic of Selesnya, as opposed to, like, if I'm going to use an exploit to modify my die rolls, I would express that as a green magic of the green aspect of Selesnya. And when I'm sustaining a power to activate, like, a personal life aura for myself, I could be using either white, green, or both to express how it is. But mechanically, it's a point is a point is a point. So you spend a point to pop a power. It's up to you whether you tie specific colors of mana to it or not, or if you have a general idea of your characters expressing this type of magic because of what guild you're in. These are all narrative decisions that only impact the mechanics of the game if you want them to. If you want it to be more challenging, more strict. If you think that mana is too easy for characters to use, you can add these color restrictions to them from the core mechanics. That's linked down below in the MTG book set. And yeah, limit yourself that way. You can also do. We've been playtesting gritty realism, where short rest per a night is a short rest. So the martial characters have very little mana for the course of a day, so they have to generate, either use mana potions, drink those to be able to replenish mana as disposable treasure, or to expend their action economy to be able to generate that mana over the course of the day. But since they have that perpetual usage, they'll technically never run out of mana as long as they're willing to do less each round of combat that they're using it. So very fun. Very, very fun. So looking at all the subclass features that we have here are updated and current with both the 5e24 books and adjusted for the martial power system and channeling magic with mana, like Mark of Prey, for instance, is not Hunter's Mark, for instance. You'll notice that right away because we made Mark of Prey a class feature and removed Hunter's Mark from the game. So we'll just go through the class features and then we'll get into the subclasses. We'll go through the features so we understand how the class works, and then we'll go back in and like we said, we'll go to the Winter Walker Ranger and rebuild the Winter Walker utilizing these mechanics and see how it sits and if we think it's cool or not. So it'll be fun. I think I looked at the Winter Walker when it first came out, but I never came back and officially did anything with it. So I want to come back and do that now. So there we go. So right off the cuff, we have Channeling, Mark of Prey, Depth Explorer, Ranger Fighting Styles, Ranger Subclass, Feat, Extra Attack, Improved Mark of Prey, Roving, Subclass features at 7th, a Feat at 8th level, Expertise, another improvement for Mark of Prey at 9th level, Tireless, Subclass features, another Feat at 12, another improvement to Mark of Prey at 13, Nature's Veil, subclass feature again at 15, another Feat at 16, another improved Mark of Prey at 17th level, Feral Senses, Epic Boon, and Foe Slayer, which is technically Mark of Prey as well. So we have a class feature, Mark of Prey, that scales at 1, 5, 9, 13, 17, 20. So, channeling class feature. When you gain first level as a ranger, you can choose the channeling class feature instead of spellcasting, gaining the following benefits. And of course, you'll need to do this to be able to utilize this supplement. Channeling, starting at first level, you gain the channeling class feature instead of spellcasting. A feature instead spellcasting. You can choose either strength, dexterity, or wisdom to be your channeling ability score. Your channeling DC is 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your channeling ability bonus. You also gain a pool of martial points that you can, and you can learn. You gain a pool of, I should say, mana. A pool of mana, and you can learn martial powers. Mana. At first level, you gain one martial. One martial point called mana. You regain mana when you finish a short rest, when you finish a short or long rest. You gain one additional point for each level as shown on the Ranger progression table. You gain martial powers beginning at first level. You learn 4 first rank powers from the martial powers list. You gain additional powers as you gain levels up to your maximum channeling limit as listed on the martial powers progression table, which is just a half casting progression that you already expect it to be. You can swap one prepared power for another when you finish a long rest, and you can swap all prepared powers when you gain a level. Note, fighting styles and weapon masteries can be prepared as meta powers, but are not automatically gained as class features. Spellcasting with power. Starting at first level, you can choose to prepare spells on the Ranger's spell list instead of powers. The number of martial points spent, the number of mana. This is very old language, so I'm glad we're updating this. The amount of mana spent to cast a spell is equal to the level of the spell cast. Maintaining concentration on a spell follows the rules as presented in the color mana spell point variant rules. That's on the DMsGuild. And each rank of power you sustain reduces the maximum spell level that you can maintain concentration on at the same time. For example, if a 9th level ranger is sustaining 2 ranks of power, you can only concentrate on a level 1 spell. So, and just to summarize, for those that aren't already indoctrinated and understand what the concentration system is in the color mana spell point variant rules, I'll crack those open for you real quick because they are relevant to the conversation. So you click on the MTG color mana spell list here or bundle. You click that, it'll open up the bundle of books that we've made, the revised color mana spell list. The spell point Warlocks, elemental key for monks using elemental magic, the core mechanics of the color mana system, knights and tricksters for eldritch knights and arcane tricksters, the universal spell points and high magic, basically a really tight condensed spell point system devoid of any kind of color or other paradigms. It's just very fast and loose to use. And then we had a staff preview, which was basically something I put out early on, just basically presenting concepts of color magic, which is kind of a walk through history. It's also a discount, so it helps lower the cost of the bundle overall. So looking at the core mechanics, that's probably the quickest way. Actually, let's go to Knights and Tricksters. That's going to be maybe a little. We'll go into color. We have a number of rules that are duplicated from one book to another, which is another great reason for this to be 100% free preview, because every time you buy one of my books, you're going to get some redundant pages that re-explain the same mechanics over and over again as reinforcements. So we're looking at I'm going to be updating this book for 24. This is literally the first book that I created for DMsGuild, so it's by far the ugliest. But magic in this system is broken down into 3 types of duration, and that is instantaneous, like cure wounds, fireball, teleport. It has no sustained magic effect. After casting a spell, it's complete. Persistent spells. These spells have sustained magic effects that are active until finishing a long rest. Any spell in the player's handbook with magic effects lasting longer than 24 hours are persistent and continue. They retain their longer duration, like Blight works for like Gesh lasts a week or a month or something. So that'd obviously be a persistent spell, and it would keep its duration even though it's longer than 24 hours. And when you cast a spell, when you wake up in the morning and the spell would expire, you could instead choose to leave the mana spent to sustain the spell for another day. So you don't have to necessarily recast it. That's great news for necromancers that have a shitload of skeletons running around. I created this. I created like 40 mana worth of skeletons I'm in command of, and if they go free, I'm fucked. So it's great that you can just leave that mana burned, and that undead will stay under your control after you finish a long rest. That makes the necromancer narrative a lot more realistic, because you can send your animated skeletons off into the wilderness to go attack villages or whatever, and if you leave that mana tapped or spent when you finish your long rest, you don't have to worry about them losing command of them and no longer fulfilling the orders that you want. That's a great way for you to narrate, like, how does this necromancer send undead minions off to do things when you technically have to refresh them under your control every 24 hours. So this resolves that concern. And then the last issue is concentration, which is, you tap mana to turn it on, and it lasts. These spells have sustained magic effects that continue while the caster maintains concentration, unless dismissed or disrupted. When using simplified durations, choosing to begin a long rest dismisses any concentration spells, even if no sleep is actually required by your character. So going down and looking at concentration specifically, let's look at variant concentration rules. So basically the way that the concentration works in this system is by tapping mana. Maintaining concentration for spells is referred to as tapping. When using variant tap rules, concentration spells don't burn mana until the spell is ended. For each level of spell maintained, an equal amount of mana is tapped. The mana progression table lists the max spell level that can be cast, which is also the maximum number of spell levels that can be maintained. So a 9th level ranger that can cast 3rd level spells can maintain 3 mana, which also happens to be the cost of a 3rd level spell. When the spell ends, the tap mana, spell slots, or sorcery points are burned as normal. For example, a wizard casts Charm Person by expending 1 mana. That mana is considered tapped while the spell is maintained. If the caster loses concentration, the spell immediately ends and the tap mana is burned. Multi-spell concentration. This variant allows spellcasters to maintain concentration for multiple spells, which have a combined spell level not exceeding their max spell level listed on the kit. Like, for example, your 9th level ranger, 3rd level spells, you can maintain up to 3 levels worth of spells, which could be 3 1st level spells, 2nd level spell, and a 1st level spell, or a 3rd level spell. You have those options. Those would all cost 3 mana each, no matter what. Let's see. Share spell limit is this additional variant rule reduces your max spell level. Duplicative magic while maintaining concentration on multiple castings of the same spell. Multiple targets can be affected by different castings of the same spell if the target is not self-only. Furthermore, no targets can be affected by multiple castings of the same spell more than once. For example, 2 grease spells have overlapping effects. So if I'm an 11th level wizard and I cast Hold Person, a 2nd level spell, I could have 3 Hold Persons active at the same time as separate spells up to 6 levels instead, or I think Hold Person actually lets me stack up. Like a 6th level spell, I think would allow me to have 4 people held. So that's not necessarily the best example, but Flaming Sphere, for instance, is a 2nd level spell. An 11th level druid could have 3 Flaming Spheres active at the same time, all doing damage in their individual positions. Each requires a separate bonus action to reposition, but now doesn't Time Stop seem like a super useful spell to have? When you have these bonus spell, let's move your spell to do damage effects, Time Stop actually becomes a really freaking cool spell to have because you can rearrange all of those at the same time. Anyway, just a thing to point out there. But but to compensate for this added power that you get, you have concentration checks. Using this variant, the DC to maintain concentration is 10 plus the level of the spell. 10 plus the level of spell plus the total amount of mana tapped. For example, a 17th level druid using multi-tap spells could maintain concentration on 3 3rd level spells tapping a total of 9 mana, so the concentration DC would be 19. 10 plus total amount of mana. Our 9th level Ranger, maintaining concentration on 3 mana worth of spells, would have a concentration DC of 13. Whenever you make a saving throw, you risk losing concentration. For example, if a 19th level Druid must make a DC 18 Wisdom saving throw against a Death's Knight command spell while the Druid is maintaining concentration on 2 5th level spells, the result of the saving throw, if the saving throw was below 20, the Druid would lose concentration on both spells, even if I succeeded the saving throw against that Death Knight's command. Because I was maintaining 2 5th level spells plus 10, my concentration DC is 20, and no matter what saving throw I have to throw, I have to hit that DC. That immediately compensates for how much mana you get. So you can afford to have concentration spells get popped frequently because you have enough of a mana battery to be able to cast them again. What's the biggest problem that people say is in spell points is that you can cast so many spells. So when it comes to concentration, it's very delicate. So that forces you to cast that spell many, many times. It's actually a self-correcting problem. Like the problem is actually the solution. Make concentration more delicate so it forces you to cast the spell more often and chew through both your action economy during combat and through your concentration, so you have to cast those spells in that mana again. Hey Steve, how you doing? So that's a fun little mechanic. I strongly recommend you guys play with it. It's super fun. It's working great on gritty realism, where we're having long rest is like every 3 days. So we have short rest, long rest, short rest, long rest. That's how we're the flow that we're having in our playtest right now, and that works really great. I personally have ran more of 2 campaigns from level 1 to 20 using the color mana system like this, where you're getting all your mana back. Long rest equals 1 night's rest. It still works great. You just have to tempo it so that you're hitting the characters with frequent saving throws that they can botch. Traps in a tunnel, weather conditions, reading too many words in a row. We actually have, it's called attrition checks. You're maintaining concentration is difficult in hostile conditions. DM is encouraged to frequently challenge the character's concentration to put tapped mana at risk of being burned. This is referred to as attrition. The time between attrition checks depends on severity of condition. The greater the severity, the more often spellcasters experience attrition, as noted below. Severity from mild to unnatural. Attrition is every 4 hours to 1 round. Conditions of attrition. Conditions that impose attrition checks can include, but this isn't the comprehensive list. These are just the ones that we came up with offhand. Standing very still for a long period of time is a Constitution saving throw. The classic guard falling asleep standing up. Holding your breath for a long time. We might change that to strength because of 5e24, but for now it's listed as Constitution. I guess I could probably do either. Enduring a detrimental spell effect, that would be Wisdom, loud or repetitious noise, also Wisdom, blinding light or darkness, Intelligence, maintaining scrying or other divination magic that can be fatiguing over time to maintain. That's the ability score used to cast it. Researching or crafting tools being used. And believe, if you watch some of my longer art streams, you can tell when I'm losing concentration on art. So that would be whatever skill it is that you're using for that tool or that craft. And then we have environments of attrition. Examples of environments warranting attrition includes hail, sand, and snowstorms, a Constitution. Ship at sea in rough waters is dexterity. Alternate plane of existence is charisma. Airborne during a lightning storm, for instance, is dexterity. Airborne during high winds would be strength. Underwater is strength. Ash or smoke-filled air would be holding your breath, which we currently list as Constitution. And then extended climbs, where you could just literally run out of oomph while you're climbing the mountain. That becomes a strength check. And then we have environments that can be ignored by Ranger's natural explorer class features, which we'll have to update for 2024 because of roving. Uneven cavern floors, which would be dexterity, but a Ranger ignores it. Dense forest and jungle would be strength because of how, getting caught on nettles and trapped up in vines and stuff. Heat and humidity is Constitution. Freezing cold, also Constitution. When traversing hostile terrain or enduring hostile conditions, make an ability concentration ability score at the frequency of the severity listed. If the saving throw fails, concentration is disrupted. And then instead, you can pay attrition. So if you fail your saving throw, instead of having to recast the spells, you can just pay that amount of mana to keep them going anyway. Kind of like when you finish a long rest, you can just leave the mana spent to keep your persistent spells active. When you fail an attrition check, this is different from in combat. In combat is I'm being shocked by something and that's taking me away. So that's either going to be like damage or spell casting. Like if you pass the saving throw on a fireball, you don't also have to make another saving throw to maintain concentration because you already passed or failed the saving throw from the fireball, and that either took your concentration or it didn't. The damage isn't going to affect it. But if somebody just comes up and stabs you in the gut, does say 16 points of damage, then yeah, you're going to have to make a Constitution saving throw of that. And if you're maintaining a 3rd level spell, even though the DC is only 8, because of the damage divided by 2, your minimum concentration DC is 13 because you're maintaining concentration on a 3rd level spell. But that, like, by the time you're 9th level, you can cast a lot of 3rd level spells per day, so it makes up for it. But yeah, this allows you when you're doing overland travel, like if you're say if you're doing an underwater adventure, and you have water breathing is a persistent spell, so that wouldn't count. Freedom of movement, for instance. While you're underwater and you have freedom of movement active on your character, that is a concentration spell. And if you take damage or get surprised or foot caught in something, who knows, you'll lose concentration. Instead of losing that spell and having to cast it again while you're underwater, you can just pay your attrition price, pay the 3 mana, and then you get to keep the spell, but you're now down 3 mana. So you spare yourself from having to cast the spell again, but it costs you almost like hit points. Your failed saving throw cost you 3 mana. It's almost the same as though you popped a trap and it costs you 6 hit points. See how that works? It's fun. It's fun. So that's the core mechanic of going into concentration. So keeping that in mind, spellcasting with power, when you sacrifice bonus actions during combat to generate temporary mana, again, we talked about generating mana up above, you can use either your reaction, attacks, or your bonus action to generate mana. And you can specifically do that to create strikes, exploits, and maneuvers. Strikes, exploits, maneuvers, and reactions. Those are the 4 types of powers that you can use. Temporary mana, mana that you generate, can be spent on those actions. Sustained powers are persistent. They last all day once you cast them. So what we do is we don't give you free mana to cast persistent spells because those spells don't require any kind of concentration. So you're basically cheating action economy to get something that's going to affect you both in and out of combat. So we don't allow you to use mana that you generate for sustained effects like that. So similarly, Rangers specifically, you can sacrifice bonus actions during combat, only bonus actions during combat to generate mana. You can spend that mana to cast one of your Ranger spells with a duration of either instantaneous or concentration, instead of channeling a power. And you're also not limited to casting one spell with mana per round. For example, you can cast a level 3 spell that uses a magic action and a level 2 spell that uses a bonus action during your turn if you have 5 mana available. And then also note that using martial powers replaces the Hunter's Mark spell with the Mark of Prey class feature. So remove that spell from the Ranger's spell list. Other classes can still prepare it because it sucks, but it's not something your Ranger is going to want to use. Your Ranger is automatically going to use Mark of Prey instead. So having said that, Mark of Prey. This replaces Hunter's Mark, Favored Enemy, and Relentless Hunter features. So, as a bonus action, you can mark a creature that you can see within 120 feet of yourself as your prey. This can be done immediately after an attack with a weapon if the target is not currently your prey, applying any additional effects against that target. There you go. The mark remains until you mark a new target as your prey. The target is killed or you are incapacitated. Here's the effects at level 1. So again, we have effects at level 1, 5, 9, 13, 17, and then the Foe Slayer at 20. So level 1, while a creature is marked as your prey, you gain advantage with intelligence investigation and wisdom, insight, perception, survival checks related to your prey. In addition, when you hit your prey with a weapon attack, you gain 1 point of temporary mana to expend as a strike power. And you add the Martial Strike power to your, one of the powers that we have listed, it's called Martial Strike. So when you have prey marked and you hit them, you automatically gain 1 point of mana that you can spend on a strike power. Let's see. You can and you add the Martial Strike power, right? And you add the Martial Strike power without counting against your total prepared list. So let's go look at strikes real quick, just so you guys are aware and current with what the things do. First, scroll up to strikes. Strike powers. Strike powers are instant effects that trigger when you hit with a weapon attack. You can channel mana to deal additional damage and target the creature hit with its strike's effects. The additional damage is doubled when channeled with a crit hit, just like paladin spells. Similar to let's see, you can channel strike powers anytime you hit with a weapon attack if you have any mana to do so. Similar to how, which means during your turn as well as part of, like, say, an opportunity attack. Similar to how casters can't cast cantrips and spells at the same time, strike powers cannot be channeled when you use a weapon or a combat mastery. When you're using a weapon mastery or a combat mastery. So we're just going to clean that up. When you use a combat mastery, unless the power or a feature specifically says otherwise. Strike effects automatically end after 1 minute of attacking the creature unless the strike specifies otherwise. Whenever a creature is affected by a new instance of the same spell, the duration renews, and the DC to end the most recent instance of the effect replaces the previous, even if it's lower. So whenever you hit them with a power, like if you and I both have, say, Blinding Strike, your DC is 16 and mine's only 12. If I hit him with Blinding Strike after yours, my duration refreshes, but now the duration to overcome it is only 12 instead of 16. So that's a quick skinny on strike powers. So let's look at a strike power specifically to apply that information. We'll look at 2 of them. Look at Caustic Strike. It's a first rank power. It costs 1 mana minimum. Hey, what's up? Hey, Foxtrot. It's good to see you, my man. So Caustic Strike. Your weapon can deal acid or necrotic damage and increases damage by 1 power die. And again, we looked up above, a first level martial character channels with a D6. So Caustic Strike, your weapon can deal acid or necrotic damage. It's like when you, like your dagger, you hit with your dagger, instead of dealing piercing damage, it can now do acid or necrotic damage as though it were a magical weapon, right? And then you can, for each point of mana that you spent to do this, you can add a D6 to the damage. If I have a 9th level ranger, I could put up to 3 mana in Caustic Strike and do an extra 3 dice of damage. At 9th level, it happens to be a D8. So I would add 3d8 damage, and what else does it say? At the beginning of the target's next turn, it must make a Constitution saving throw. Success means that it takes no extra damage. If it fails, it takes power dice of damage again, and the effect ends. So I hit you, and then next turn, at the beginning of the target's next turn, make your Constitution saving throw. If you pass the saving throw, no damage. If you fail, I roll those 3 8-sided dice again. You take the secondary damage, and then the effect is over. That's like, say, Caustic Strike. But we just read that all rangers get the Martial Strike power. You automatically add that to your list. So what is and we also saw here that up above we just read that strikes and maneuvers can't be used. Strikes and weapon masteries can't be used at the same time. So like I could choose push, or I could use Caustic Strike, but I can't use them both. So Martial Strike becomes interesting because Martial Strike, your weapon damage increases by 1 power die per mana channeled. The power die rolled is one size. Oh, I need to fix that. I think changing the weapon damage is too much. So we're gonna want to nerf that down a little bit. Let's see. When you channel this strike, the let's see. Your weapon damage increases by 1 power die per mana channeled. And the power die rolled is one size larger than your current die up to D12. In addition, you can use one combat mastery you have prepared, or that is a property of a weapon that you hit with. So normally I wouldn't be able to use, say, Goading Strike with Push at the same time, but the Martial Strike specifically ramps damage and lets you use a mastery such as Push or Topple or Vex, whatever it is that you want to use. But yeah, we want to reduce the Martial Strike. There was a gray area where our rogue was like, does this mean that I get to increase my sneak attack die because it's part of the weapon damage dice that I'm rolling with my sneak attack? That makes me then think about Martial Strike overall. It's like, wait a second, we're already giving you a level up on the power die that you're going to roll to add an extra damage. We don't need you, like, say, if you're using a two-handed sword that's doing 2d6 damage, I don't want it doing 2d8 damage. I don't want you to ramp your sneak attack dice off of this. So that language is too loose, so we have to fix that. So we just did. So this is one of our edits that we've been preparing, and that's probably going to be the strongest nerf to our playtesting, probably more so than anything else. But this lets you use masteries on top of dealing more damage. Like your 9th level ranger would normally be rolling a D10, a D8 on your power die to add damage, but when you're using Martial Strike, it would be a D10. If you're already, like a monk, for instance, rolls a D12 at 17th level, Martial Strike caps it at D12, because where are you going to go from a D12? It's not like we're gonna make you go buy a D14 from DCC or something like that. Although I guess you could if you wanted to. That's just outside of the scope of what normal die roll mechanics are in 5e or D&D in general. So we're capping it at D12 as your modifier. So that's an interesting feature, and it was worth pointing out that we just get that because we have this class feature, we automatically get Martial Strike as a prepared power. And whenever you hit your prey with a weapon attack, you gain a point of temporary mana. You're automatically doing an extra power die of damage, and you can activate one of the powers that you know. We give you Martial Strike for free so that you have a generic strike power that you can always use with Mark of Prey. Even if you don't choose to prepare any strikes on your own, you'll at least still be able to use your weapon mastery and deal more damage to your Mark of Prey, which is the fantasy of the sniper hunter type character. Level 5, you gain advantage with weapon attacks targeting your prey. That's huge, honestly. It's huge. At level 9, your attack score a critical hit against your prey on a roll of 19 or 20 instead of just 20. This and the champion are basically the only two classes in the game in the whole system that get a higher crit roll. So rangers have a very special spot in the game that way. And then at 13th level, your mark of prey can persist even if you're incapacitated, including when you take a long rest. And you can mark your target, as you can see, as your prey regardless of distance. 17th level, your weapon attacks score a critical hit against your prey on an 18, 19, or 20. And then we're going to skip down to the Foe Slayer, which modifies Mark of Prey. Your Mark of Prey grants additional benefits. You add a D12 to the attack rolls, as well as intelligence and wisdom modifiers against your against your prey. And when you channel strike powers to damage your prey, you roll a D12 instead of a D10. So with this, the monk always rolls a D12 at 17. The battle master fighter gets to roll a D12 at 17th level, and then with with Foe Slayer, your ranger gets to roll a D12 at 20th level on top of the other benefits here. So that's how Mark of Prey works. It's no longer a concentration spell that you have to spend. It's just a class feature, kind of like a Barbarian's Rage, that you have to spend the bonus action to use it. But when you kill a target, you have to use a new bonus action to select a new target. Whenever you do that, you get to generate free mana when you hit them, as though you had expended a bonus bonus action to generate free mana to use on your attacks. You see how that is? This is basically giving you bonus your bonus action as free mana. Like at 5th level, you get 2 attacks per round, right? That means every time you hit, if it's your prey, if both attacks hit your prey, you're going to get 2 free points of mana, 1 per hit. But if that first attack kills your prey, you now have to use your bonus action to switch to another target. And then if you hit them, then you can also gain a point of mana. So we're making the fact that you have to burn your bonus action to target new prey every time, regardless of level. It's compensating for that by giving you that free mana. So it actually balances out basically against how a paladin operates with their bonus action to do smites. It actually kind of balances with that. So yeah, there you go. That's a cool feature. Second level, fighting styles. In addition to the list of fighting styles in the player's handbook, Rangers gain access to 2 unique fighting styles that you can prepare as martial powers, or rather, access to 3 unique fighting styles. There's Druidic Warrior, Dual Prowess, and Ranged Prowess. So Druidic Warrior, which replaces that in player's handbook. This is you get 2 cantrips and a level 1 spell from the Druid, and then they count as ranger spells, so you can use your bonus action to generate mana for them if they're instant or concentration. And in addition to that, whenever you gain a ranger level, you can replace one of the cantrips, and you can replace one of the cantrips with another druid cantrip, and you can replace the bonus spell that you got with another druid spell of a level that you can cast. So a 9th level ranger can have 2 druid cantrips and any 3rd level druid spell that you want, and it can be affected by generating mana. So at 9th level, you're going to generate 2 points of mana with your bonus action. So when you use that 3rd level spell, for instance, it now only costs 1 mana from your mana pool and your bonus action to use it, as long as it's concentration or instant damage. So that really increases the utility of what the ranger can do. Like at 9th level, if it's a 2nd level spell that you've chosen, like Pass Without Trace, for instance, it costs no mana to use it as long as you're in combat when you do. So that free mana generation, it only works while you're in combat, or like during initiative, is technically how 5e works. So that's really good by itself. Dual prowess. While dual wielding weapons, you can use any melee weapon without the 2-handed property in one hand, and a light weapon you're proficient with in your offhand, adding your ability bonus to the damage for both. Normally, when you're dual wielding, you don't add your ability damage to the offhand weapon, and it is required to have. And if it has, obviously, the Nick property lets you use them both as the same action. In addition, you can draw and stow 2 weapons that lack the 2-handed weapon property that would normally be able to draw or stow only 1. Starting at 6th level, this basically is simplifying and duplicating a number of different feats that you could take, but it's just basically boiling it down into just something you get for free. So starting at 6th level, while dual wielding, you can use any weapon you're proficient with that don't have the 2-handed property in both hands. So in one hand, the other hand, any 2 single-handed weapons, they don't have to be light, you're fine. Oh yeah, that's another good point. Dual wielding can be with any melee weapon without the 2-handed property in one hand and the light weapon in the other. Normally, if you're going to dual wield, you have to have both have to be light weapons. We get to remove that feature, though you still have to have the light weapons with Nick to be able to use the Nick property. Starting at 6th level, dual wielding, they can be both the weapons can be anything that's one-handed, and in addition, you can make an attack with a weapon as your bonus action. In addition, when you make an attack with a weapon as your bonus attack, you can also mark that target you attack as your prey when doing so. So this allows you to dual wield attack with bonus action and still be able to mark targets during your combat. Hitting that, like ideally, if you have to change targets, use your bonus action to hit that guy and mark him as your prey while you do it. So you don't have to hit to mark them, you just mark them, but you get to make an attack against them as part of that action. Hold on, I should reword that actually then. So in addition, when you mark a creature as your prey with your bonus action, you can also make an attack with your second weapon You can also make an attack with your second weapon against your prey as part of the same bonus action. So that's super high value and worth taking, but you don't get it until 6th level, but you choose that at 2nd. Starting at 10th level, when you hit with a weapon attack, you can use your bonus action to damage the same target with your offhand weapon as part of the same attack. So you don't have to roll twice, you can just automatically hit, combining the result of both weapon damage rolls together. Super useful if you crit. Just saying. If the attack is ranged, both weapons must be thrown to benefit from this option. In addition, you can mark the target you hit with this bonus action as your prey when doing so. So again, it just reinforces that you can use your bonus action to attack and mark at the same time. And now we have alternately, so that was dual prowess. So instead, we also now have ranged prowess, which is when you use strike powers with a ranged weapon, the power size is not reduced. Normally, when you're using a ranged weapon like a sling, a bow, crossbow, a ranged weapon with ammunition, a blow dart, for instance, these are considered ranged weapons, and ranged weapons typically have a longer range than thrown weapons. So to compensate for that, although it's not significant, you lower the power die that you roll when you're dealing damage or otherwise doing effects with channeling powers through ranged weapons. So if I wanted to shoot you with a longbow, and you have to be within normal range. Powers don't work at far range, only at your normal range. So I would then, like at level 1, if you're within my normal bow range, I could shoot you, but the power die is only going to be a D4, not a D6. So unless you're using martial power, unless you're using a martial strike, in which case it would be a D6 again, because normally a martial strike would make your D6 power die a D8, but a ranged weapon drops the D6 to a D4. So martial strike with a ranged weapon is also still just a D6. So that all washes out. So this automatically gives you your ability to ignore that reduction. So it stays a D6. And if you were, say, using martial strike as a archer, you would be doing D8s extra damage at level 1. Starting at level 6, you can make opportunity attacks with thrown and ranged weapons against targets within 10 feet, as though you are using a melee weapon with the reach property. So if somebody moves more than 10 feet away from you, you get an opportunity attack with them with your ranged weapons. Which means you could take Sentinel, for instance, with ranged prowess. So you could use Sentinel with a bow if you wanted to. Super fun stuff. Channel 10. You can, when you channel powers through a ranged weapon, you can affect targets at the long range of your weapon. So you're no longer limited to your normal range. You can now snipe things like 300 some odd feet away with your longbow, for instance. And then we have, and that's basically how that's your features. So they scale from level 1 to 10. Yeah, there you go. So those are the Ranger fighting styles. In addition, I don't know why it doesn't say it in ranged prowess. I was considering allowing you to expend a prepared power to take more than one of these. And I think I'm okay with that. I've been thinking about it for a while. I think we just go ahead and pull the trigger on it. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. There we go. All right. Yeah. So you can. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to withhold it for now. Something tells me I shouldn't, so I'm not going to. But boy, that would make a really tasty subclass feature if we find somebody's lacking in something. That would be a really nice thing to add on. All right, let's look at the rest of the rest of the class features, and then move on. Ranger subclasses 7, 11, 15. Feats at 4, 8, 12, 16. Extra attack at 5. Roving at 6. Your speed increases by 10 feet when you aren't wearing heavy armor. You also have a climb speed and a swim speed equal to your actual normal speed. Expertise at 9. Tireless at 10, which is temporary hit points. As a magic action, you can give yourself a number of temporary hit points equal to D8 plus your channeling ability modifier. You can use this action a number of times equal to the max rank of power gained as a ranger, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So this is a number of temporary hit points equal to D8 plus your channeling ability modifier, minimum of 1. Max rank is equal to the max rank of power gained as a ranger. So by the time you get this at 10th level, you can channel 3rd rank powers, which means you can use it 3 times. By the time you're 17th level, you can use it 5 times. And then decrease exhaustion. Whenever you finish a short rest, your exhaustion level, if any, decreases by 1. Beep. Normally it decreases by 1 on a long rest. And then at 14, Nature's Veil. Bonus action, give yourself the invisible condition until the end of your next turn. You can use this feature a number of times, equal to the max rank of power gained as a ranger. At 14th level, that answer is 4. And 5 at 17. And you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Alternatively, you can expend 2 mana to regain 1 use, no action required. It's 2 mana. Invisibility is also a 2nd level spell, but requires concentration, and you might not have the slots open to do so. And this is it only lasts until the end of next turn, but it's a bonus action to use it, so it's faster action economy. And again, you can cast spells both on the bonus action and as a magic action using this system. So you would be able to cast a normal spell. This doesn't go away when you cast a spell. Notice how it doesn't go away when you cast a spell. So as a bonus action, you can use Nature's Veil to turn invisible, and then you can cast a spell and not become visible again, or attack because you're invisible and not become visible again until the end of your next turn. So there's a lot of high value in there for only 2 mana. You get it 4 times for free, 5 at 17, and then it only costs 2 mana for you to gain it again. That's the same charge that you get for like Channel Divinity, for instance. It's the same effect. Feral Senses, 18th, you gain Blind Sight, range is 30 feet. Epic Boon at 19, and we already looked at Foe Slayer, 20th level, Mark of Prey gets good. Gets really, really good. So that's all the features of the Ranger. It's a pretty tight package. It works really well. Getting rid of Hunter's Mark as a concentration spell effect opens up the design space for us to fuck around with mechanics of 5e a lot more, because we aren't dumping so much class feature into just making Hunter's Mark work at higher levels. Like just at level 1, Hunter's Mark of Prey just works, and it will always be of value because it generates mana for you. It will always be useful in the future. Beyond that, you can, if you're using Nick, right, you can make an attack if you're a 9th level dual wielding fighter using Nick property with 2 light weapons. You've got your attack, bonus action, and Nick. So you can do 4 attacks, and you're going to generate a point of mana on each of them if all you're doing are hitting your marked prey. And depending, BBEG might survive that long with them being marked as your prey after 4 attacks. If you're handling a mob and they're one-shot minions, then obviously you're not going to generate a lot of mana. But if you can kill them one shot anyway, you don't need to. So if you're dealing with brutes, having 2 brutes on you, you can swap back and forth using your bonus action to be able to do your full kit of attacks. And then halfway through, use your bonus action to switch and then make the rest of your attacks on that secondary target if you want to. It's good to not overcommit your action economy. Don't use your bonus action up front when you're attacking something, because if you're able to attack, nick, it drops bonus action, mark, attack, your secondary attack action. And now you've used all 4 of your light weapon attacks in a round, and you've been able to maximize it between two targets that had been that you had marked during your combat. So useful. Anyway, so let's get to the, what's it called? The Winter Walker. So let's kick on down to the Winter Walker, see what they do with it. We're going to modify it using these mechanics that we just went over and see what the Winter Walker is going to look like for us. So pretty excited about doing this. I know I had glanced at Winter Walker, but I didn't devote a lot of attention to it, but this is perfect timing for that. So let's grab a scaffold. We're going to go down to the bottom of the list. See, we already have Hollow Warden in here. We did this like last month when that came out. But yeah, we never got around to the Winter Walker. So let's drop on down here past Swarm Keeper. I'm just going to cut paste this entire kit here. Copy. My mouse is being goofy. Sometimes the laser, sometimes Link gets in the laser of my mouse, and it starts to throw off the laser eye. Swamp Keeper. We're going to change that to what? Winter Walker. Winter Walker. Winter Walker. Winter Walker. Blah. It was a power list. Excuse me for a second. My mouse is just being really cantankerous, so I'm just going to have to keyboard it. WASD engaged. I'm going to scratch all that away, scratch all that away, scratch that away. Scratch that away. Okay, bonus list. Winter Walkers on their craft in the bleak and frozen wilds and places like Icewind Dale, Ryan with ice. These ruthless hunters hunt. These ruthless rangers hunt the monsters that haunt Arctic wastelands, eventually becoming frigid terrors themselves. More so than any other ranger of Icewind Dale, Winter Walkers are known to be well versed in the paranormal phenomenon specific to the realms, including the latest magic of fallen Netherese cities, the latent magic of fallen Netherese cities, endemic monsters like Yetis and Cragcats, and the rising threat of Underdark invaders. In exchange for their cold pragmatism, terrifying magic, and mastery of the region, these Winter Walkers are regarded with equal parts respect and fear. Flavor text, blah. Frigid Explorer, Hunter's Rhyme, Winter Walker spells. There we go. Okay, so we get 5 spells. Bonus list. Let's go to level, spells, and powers. So what spells do you get? Because we want 10. Some rangers get 10 spells. Some rangers get 5 spells. Some don't get any fucking spells at all for some reason. Unclear. So if you don't get 10 spells, if you get 5 spells, we give you 5 powers on top of it. If you don't get any spells, we give you 10 powers to make up for the lack of power. So all the subclasses get 10 of something. And all the subclasses basically get, like the Warlock is the exception. The Warlock gets 15 somethings, like 15 spells, but they can also use their invocations for powers. So they have 23 spells or powers they can select. But all the full casters and all the marshals, otherwise, all of them get 23 spells or powers to choose from. And then they get 10 bonus spells. So every class gets 33 of whatever they get. So balance. There's not, when you're throwing mana into the equation like this, a lot of the power disparage goes away. So it's we're compensating for it, giving you more things to do with your mana. So let's look. Ice Knife, pass without trace. Ice Knife. We'll just pencil these in here real quick, and then we'll pick out. We'll go through the class features, and then from the class features, we'll see what makes sense to use as a bonus power. Like freezing strike is going to be an obvious pick me, right? I lost it. There it is. Remove curse. Ice storm. Cone of cold. At 17th level, you can spend a bonus action to generate 3 mana. Cone of cold costs 5. So if I blow my bonus action and then cast Cone of Cold as a magic action, it's only going to cost 2 mana from my mana pool. And at 17th level, I've got 17 mana in my mana pool. So I can, as long as I'm willing to give up my action economy, I can spam the fuck out of that spell, which is great. Same thing with Steel and Strike. Steel and Strike at 17th level, cast that spell. I can hit 6 targets for 5d10 force damage, and I can use my bonus action to generate 3 mana. I would only have to cast 2 mana for Steel and Strike. I can do that. I can do this all day. At 20th level, I can do it 10 times before I run out of mana on a short rest. So, like, it is, you are using this mana system and action economy and letting like half casters borrow into their efficient powers of being able to generate temporary mana as bonus actions actually takes away bonus action options during combat and instead lets you cast spells that you'd love to be able to cast more of if you could. This is going to let you actually keep up a lot better with full casters as far as like what kind of power you can throw around and how often you can do it. Super fun. Super, super fun. Highly recommend. But of course I do. I'm making the damn thing. Why wouldn't I recommend it, right? It's kind of cheating when I say that. But still. And again, all 14 classes and all the powers in here are already listed out here. It's still rough and the language is broken. It's certainly not the final product, so it's not what you're going to get on the DMsGuild. There's a lot more here than what we're going to actually publish in the first book, because we don't know where they're going to take subclasses in the future. We're building the Forsaken subclasses that didn't graduate in 2024. We're taking our best guess with how we think they're going to play out. And then eventually Wizards comes along and rebuilds them the way that they want to, and there's not a lot of difference. Like a lot of times we hit the marks that they're going for and then we take it a step further. Taking that thing a step, I'm very opinionated about Wizards of the Coast because I love D&D and Magic the Gathering so much. Absolutely adore them as IPs. Whether or not I think Wizards is a good steward or not is highly debatable, but I love what they own. And as a passionate fanboy, I want to create for them. So I'm harsh and very critical of the decisions that Wizards make, but it delights me to no end when they start going in my direction. Like they figure out where I'm going and they decide to head in that direction as well, like sacrificing sneak attack dice to generate on hit effects. That was a good idea. I'm glad I had it like 6 months before they published that piece. So I'll happily put that feather in my cap and brag about that sort of stuff. I did not see the bonus action casting for Paladin, but I love how we modified it so that anybody, including the Paladin, can just spend mana when you hit something to deal damage. But if the Paladin dumps their bonus action when they do it, they can add a whole extra point of mana beyond their normal limit at first level, 2 extra mana beyond their normal limit at 9th level, 3 extra mana beyond their normal limit at 17th level. So they can actually do like 8 mana worth of damage on a smite spell at 17th level. Like really just drop the hammer on shit. I like it. I geek out on that sort of stuff. So okay, we have our 5 spells. Let's go through the class features, figure out what those are, and I suspect when we do, we're going to find some powers that exist that are going to just naturally make sense for us to use. So we have Bloodthirst, Dread Allegiance. I'm just going to grab these things up first. Dread Allegiance. Strike Fear. Aura of Malevolence. Is that... Hold on. What the fuck? $11.15. Why is... This is... Oh, I'm in the wrong fucking thing. Winter Walker spells. Thank you. That's why I'm doing the wrong thing. Okay, life suddenly makes more sense now. I'm like, what the hell is going wrong? 7th, 11th, 15th. Thank you. There we go. Frigid Explorer. Thank you. I'm like, huh. Frigid Explorer. Well, that suddenly makes a lot more sense. Hunter's Rhyme. Frigid Fortified Soul. Chilling Retribution. And finally, Frozen Haunt. Okay, now that we have those, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to crack open a notepad. I'm going to jump over here. And I'm going to steal. Okay. Thank you, Timely Timer. I suspect we don't have to care about that. God, they're so stingy with their damage. It's pathetic. Frigid Explorer, you gain the following benefits. Frost resistance. You gain resistance to cold damage. Polar strikes. When you hit a creature with a weapon, you can deal an extra D4 cold damage against the target, which can take this extra damage only once per only one D4 extra per turn. God willing, they not, heaven forbid, they deal an extra D4 damage every time they hit. That would just be too extreme. I mean, a wizard can cast Steel and Strike at 9th level, but by the time you're 11th level, you can use a D8. You can use a D6 instead of a D4. Fucking A. They're so afraid of marshals being able to do shit. It's pathetic. Have you? By the way, have you seen Guiding Bolt? It deals 46 radiant damage as a first level spell and gives you Vex, basically. Kind of don't know what's going on inside their heads sometimes. So Frost Resistance, that's cool. Polar Strikes, that's fucking pathetic. I absolutely do not like this. So what we are going to do, though, I mean, I already know that we're going to go with Freezing Strike here. It's just obvious. Freezing Strike. Your weapon can deal cold damage and increase damage by 1 power die per mana channel, which is going to start as a D6 per hit for free on a marked target when you're level 1. The creature's movement is reduced by half. until the end of its next turn. So freezing strike. I only criticize Wizards so much because I love D&D so much. I just think Wizards. I don't think Wizards understands how awesome of a game engine 5e really is. It's like you know, like a kid on a driver's permit's been given a Maserati. It's like, you know, this car can do a lot more than what you're trained to do with it. So I don't know, man. I just don't. I think they're just on a different track. So I crap on them like that, but it's cool. Let's see what the rest of our class features are, and then we'll figure out what we need to do with this Polar Strikes thing. If you don't have Martial Strikes, Polar Strikes sounds like a great idea. You know, by making martials so simple, it kind of frees up. Like this low-hanging fruit becomes obvious for subclasses, even though it's painful and pathetic. So we're gonna do like that. Let's just keep going through and see what other cool shit comes up. Ice rhymes you and your prey. Okay. Protecting you and slowing them. When you cast Hunter's Mark, you gain temporary hit points equal to D10 plus your ranger level. Additionally, while a creature is marked by your Hunter's Mark, it can't. Oh, see, that's useful unto itself. Your prey. Your marked prey cannot use the disengage action. It can't take the disengage action. God, that's really fucking good. I mean, that alone, that's a really cool feature. With this system, forced movement triggers opportunity attacks. So there's a high likelihood that you're going to be able to kick somebody out of reach and then swipe them on the way out. So that's just fun stuff that you can do. Huh. Hold on. Protecting you and slowing them. When you cast Hunter's Mark, you gain temporary hit points equal to 1d10 plus your ranger level. Let's do this instead. Let's see. You gain the following benefits. Whoa. Wheel and woe. Fuck, I don't know, man. Flavor text is not my strong suit, guys. I am not perfect. I have weaknesses. Flavor text is one of them. I am not perfect. I have weaknesses. Flavor text. When you use use your bonus action to mark a new prey, you can roll a number of power dice equal to the mana gained when you sacrifice your bonus action to generate mana. Add the results. Add these power dice together and gain that many temporary hit points. That's actually a really cool feature. I fucking love that. Let's see. Frozen Shield. And let's see. Rhyme slowed steps. Yeah, I just made those up. So there it is. That's super fun. You know what? You know what I do want to do? Something that's pulling up my brain is weapon masteries. So hold on. Yeah, weapon masteries are picking at my brain. So let's scroll down to the weapon masteries. Weapon masteries are like we explained earlier. When you're using a strike power, you can't use weapon masteries. When you're using weapon masteries, you can't use a strike power unless that strike power is Martial Strike, which specifically is designed to deal extra damage per mana and allow you, as a general idea, use any combat mastery you have prepared. When you're proficient with a weapon, you can use the weapon master if you're a martial character. If you have the channeling class feature, when you are proficient with a weapon, you can automatically use the weapon mastery that goes with it. A spellcaster, like a wizard, does not have the channeling class feature. So if they're proficient with a dagger, they would have to spend a feat to make use of the nick property that the dagger has as an inherent property. But you, as a rogue proficient with dagger and having the channeling class feature, holding a dagger means that you can automatically use the nick property with it. But combat masteries can be prepared. And if you prepare them, you can use that mastery with any weapon that would realistically qualify. So Nick still requires dual weapons with light, but like a lot of light weapons have Vex. So you could use Vex, like if you pick up Vex and Nick as masteries, you could always use Vex with any weapon, and as long as the weapon is light and you're dual wielding weapons, you could use Nick. Yeah, while dual wielding light weapons or natural or unarmed attacks. It's like a Minotaur's horns count as light weapons as far as it's concerned. So you could always nick with your horns as just a bonus attack if you're attacking with light weapons otherwise. Super useful. Let's see. While dual wielding, I was going to look through here and look at what would be if we already have damage covered with freezing strike. That rhyme damage becomes a nothing burger. We're already outclassing it, and just adding more damage to when you can deal more damage is kind of dumb. It's like a hat on a hat, right? We want to do something different. So what's something different we could do? We can take a class feature that lets us, while we're using, like say, while we're channeling the freezing strike power, we can include a weapon mastery. Maybe we can make it any weapon mastery, but it should be, so our freezing strike already slows our target. So the slow mastery would be dumb. So having any target might not be worth it. But let's say sap or Vex. What's another good one? Oh, Addle. Addle might be a good one. Target makes a Constitution saving throw or can't make opportunity attacks. Sap, hit target has disadvantage. Vex, you have advantage. Actually, Sap and Vex probably make the most sense. So let's do that. Well, you automatically get the Martial Strike. So that's going to deal more damage. But to be thematic, yeah, that feels like a good idea. So let's go with Polar Strikes. When you okay, let's do this. Polar Strikes. When you channel the freezing, when you channel freezing strike as how do I want to order this? When you channel freezing strike after hitting your marked prey, you can also use either the Vex or Sap mastery as part of the strike effect. There. That's fucking fucking sweet. So if they're marked, okay, so with this, if they're marked, they can't disengage, and again, they're marked, so you can automatically deal 1 mana of damage to them. Like, you can automatically channel 1 mana to deal a strike. If you choose to make that strike your freezing strike power, not only will you be able to reduce their speed to half, as is the effect for freezing strike, and deal the extra damage that comes with the amount of mana that you roll, but you can also add Vex or Sap Mastery. Vex gives you advantage to hit them. Sap makes them disadvantaged to attack on their next attack. So you can use either one of those masteries as part of your freezing strike. That is super fucking cool. That's going to let us lean into that idea. I think I used that with the Swarm Keeper, but this is further reinforcing that idea of using masteries, like making masteries more core to the class features of how these martial characters operate. I love that. I love that. That's super cool. Super worth. Let's look at Fortified Soul. Let's see what that does. I'm really excited about this stuff now. Getting really excited. Your experience surviving harrowing environments allows you to bolster your allies in addition to yourself. When you finish a short rest, you can choose a number of creatures to bloody blah. Let's... Come on, honey. My mouse seems to be locking up. What is actually going on? I'm gonna hit the refresh button because there's something just wonky going on. What is actually going on? Yeah, fuck off. I don't need AI in my PDF document. Thanks though. There we go. Looks like life's back to normal. When you finish a short rest, you can choose a number of creatures that you can see equal to your wisdom modifier, minimum of 1. A chosen creature regains hit points equal to D10 plus your ranger level and has advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the frightened condition for 1 hour. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. When you finish, okay. Plus your ranger level. D10 plus 7, eventually D10 plus 20. Yeah, okay. When you finish a short rest, you can choose a number of creatures you can see equal to your channeling ability modifier, because you could use strength, dexterity, or wisdom, your choice. A chosen creature regains hit points equal to 1 power die plus your ranger level. Again, tying the class features into the subclass features. Since we have a unified mechanical system with the power die, we get to use that over and over and over again throughout the book. And has advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the frightened condition for 1 hour. I'm okay with that. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. I'm also okay with that being just once. Oh man, I'm getting tired already, huh? 7:30? We're still fine. Chilling Retribution. Let's check that out. I'm just going to grab that. Retribution. When a creature hits you with an attack roll, you can take a reaction to force the creature to make a wisdom saving throw against your channeling DC. On a failed save, the target has the frightened condition until the end of your next turn. While frightened, a target's speed is reduced to 0 feet. Holy shit. You can use this reaction a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier. And you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. You can regain this feature by expending 3 mana, no action required to regain use of it. It's basically worth a 3rd level spell. Has a frightened condition until the end of your next turn, 2 mana. And speed 0 until after their turn, your next turn. It's a reaction. Got it. When a creature hits you during your turn, during their turn when they hit you, you can use a reaction to force them to make a Wisdom saving throw against your channeling DC. On a failed save, the target is frightened condition, can't move. You can use this reaction a number of times equals your Wisdom modifier. A number of times equal to your channeling ability modifier. There we go. This class is cool. Okay, we're probably going to make a sustained power out of this. So how does that go? When you cast Hunter's Mark, you can adopt a ghostly snowy form. This form lasts until the spell ends. And while you're in this form, you gain the following benefits. Once you use the feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest unless you expend 4 mana. No action required. Frozen Souled. You have immunity to the grappled, prone, and restrained condition. You can move through creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain, but you take force damage if you end your turn inside a creature or an object. As the form ends while you are inside a creature or an object, you are shunted to the nearest unoccupied space. Partial incorporeality. You are immune to grappled, prone, and restrained conditions. You can move through creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain, but you take force damage. So that is incorporeality, immune to conditions, and Frozen Soul. You have immunity to cold damage. When you first adopt this form, and at the start of each of your subsequent turns, each creature of your choice in a 15-foot emanation originates from you takes one power die of cold damage. That is worth, yeah, it's worth 4. It really is worth 4 mana. Let's check this. Let's check Ghostwalker as a sustained power. If that's a third level sustained power, or third rank sustained power. Ghostwalker, 3rd rank. And Thicket of Blades or Deadly Presence. While this power is sustained, you are not if you are not restrained, stunned, paralyzed, or incapacitated, any creature that you can see that begins its turn or moves within reach of your melee attack takes 1 power die of weapon damage. Same thing within melee range. This is expanded. Actually, incapacitated is redundant because you can't sustain powers while you're incapacitated. So making this 3 mana would pay for Deadly Presence, and it would pay for Ghostwalker for 3 mana. 3 mana and then 2 mana. That'd be 5 mana that you would have to pay individually. We're bargaining it down. Let's drop it down to 3. That'll make it really, really useful. They want us to spend 4 mana. Okay, we'll leave it at 4. When you cast, let's see, as a, you gain a unique 3rd rank. 3rd rank is what it's telling me it wants. A unique 3rd rank sustained power. called Frozen Haunt. While sustained, you gain the following benefits. This will last literally as long as you're willing to maintain it. If you become incapacitated, you lose it. There you go. You have immunity to cold damage. Emanation 15 foot is power die of damage around you. And partial incorporeality, immune to grappled, prone, restrained. And you can move through creatures as difficult terrain. But you take D10 force damage if you end your turn inside the creature. But you take 1 power die of force damage if you end your turn inside a creature or an object, and if you are period. If you end your turn inside a creature or object, you take 1 power die of force damage, and you are shunted to the nearest unoccupied space. There you go. Oh, hey, look at that. We finished the Frozen Haunt. That's actually a really freaking cool class. That is a really cool subclass. I like the mechanics that we have in here. Let's pick some spells. Or some powers. So we have Ice Knife, Pass Without Trace, Remove Curse, Ice Storm, Cone of Cold. We pick up the Freezing Strike. Let's see. Adaptive Resistance makes sense. Adaptive Resistance goes like this. While sustaining this power, you gain resistance to 1 or more types of damage as listed below in any combination up to your max channel limit. So, Elemental Resistance, 1 mana, is Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, Thunder. Again, we get Cold for free, just for being us, just being a Winter Walker. But we can also take Adaptive Resistance to have resistance to any of these other elements. For 2 mana a pop, we can have resistance to Force, Necrotic, Psychic, Radiant damage. And as natural resistance, it costs 2 mana by itself, but it gives you a combination of bludgeoning, piercing, poisoning, and slashing damage. Yeah, there you go. So adaptive resistance, pretty useful. Remove, let's see, Freezing Strike, adaptive resistance. What else we got going on down here? Frozen Haunt is the incorporeality thing, which is honestly just as good as Ghost Walker, so we don't need to give you that. Fortified Soul. Short Rest. Let's go with fuck it. Let's go with Rally. Let's see if there's anything else that's obvious. Oh, Restraining Strike. A Restraining Strike goes like this. Your damage increases by 1 power die per mana expended. The creature is restrained by magical tethers. The creature can end the effect by succeeding a strength saving throw at the end of each of its turns. Size large or larger creatures roll with advantage. And the the creature is restrained, period. I don't need to create the narrative behind how or why you're restrained. You're restrained. In this instance, it would be because you're like encased in ice. So Super useful. What other cool shit can we get access to? Let's look outside strikes. We have that is Sus 1. This is Strike 2. This is Strike 1. Defense barrier is super cool. Reaction 3. Defense barrier. We use this. The team fought an Illithid on the back of the boss fight that we had in playtesting this weekend was an Illithid with 3 Umber Hulks. And the Illithid that I'm using are basically squid-faced Yogi. So it was riding on the back of Umber Hulk, and then it had 2 other Umber Hulks that it was mind controlling with large blue stones that it had set into their carapace above their eyes. So the team basically, had a cool little boss fight, and they were able to drop it. The Illithid wanted to maneuver so that it wouldn't catch its minions inside its Mind Blast, because the Mind Blast is not discriminatory. It'll affect everybody in its cone. So it was trying to maneuver around the Umber Hulks to be able to unleash a wave of psionic energy, but the Illithid ended up being gained up on. The team had acquired some teleportation stones by harvesting them from the abdomen of phase spiders that had been hunting them in the dungeon. So once they killed them, they extracted their phase orbs. And it gave them basically a free Misty Step teleportation effect as a bonus action. So they used that to get onto the back of the Umber Hulk with the Illithid the Illithid Yogi, and just basically dumped action economy onto him and just shredded him. He couldn't stand. If he had clipped them, if he had been able to catch them with a psionic blast, it would have potentially killed one of them. So it was actually really good that they got into a position where they could just maul it down, because those guys were nasty. And they're only level 6 and they took it on. They took on 1 Illithid and 3 Umber Hulks. We've already seen in the dungeon another Umber Hulk that had a saddle but didn't have a rider. So the team's kind of been an open question mark about what was that guy's. It was just a random encounter that they found in rubble. It was a dead Umber Hulk in rubble without anything on a saddle. Maybe the rider was buried in the rubble someplace, but they weren't going to be able to dig it out to find out. But now they know what that rider was, and that's the 4th Umber Hulk that they've seen in the dungeon so far. So it could be anybody's guess. There's some sort of a raiding party involving Illithid somewhere further down in the dungeon that's finding their way up towards the surface of the playtest environment that they're messing around inside of. So I'm really looking forward to how they approach and engage that as they delve into further, deeper layers of the dungeon. How are they going to deal with a Illithid that can just deal scorching AoE psychic damage? I can anticipate the team stocking up on adaptive resistance and being basically forced to apply two of their, we're going to a 9th level playtest. We're only 6 right now. We're going until 10th level. They're only 6th level right now, which means they can only sustain 2 mana at a time. And if they become resistant to psychic damage, that's the only thing that they can sustain at the time. It's something they're probably going to keep in their back pocket if they run across the Illithid. But boy, they're going to be hamstringing themselves to have that on all the time. But it takes either an action or a bonus action to trigger it. So it's like we're either going to give up our first round of action economy to turn on resistance to psychic damage, or we're going to try to bum rush the Illithid to keep them from using psychic damage on us in the first place. That's a real tactical challenge. I'm looking forward to seeing how the team decides to deal with it. Really looking forward to that. They found the Illithid was also harvesting phase spiders for its mana base. So that was a lot of fun. So they got to kill the Illithid and its Umber Hulks. So they get the Illithid loot, the Umber Hulk loot, and whatever they looted off the phase spiders as well. So they now have enough loot acquired to be able to go get 17th level once they clear these zones if they wanted to. So they're getting they're in an interesting spot underground right now. And I think in the next, I suspect they're going to explore a little bit further this next session and maybe the session after that before going back. They'll have a surplus to push them on to 8th level. But they're coming along really nicely. The playtest has been a super, super fun. It's all been exploration and combat inside of a dungeon environment. It's been super fun to run. Yeah, anyway, there's that. So, yeah, adaptive resistance makes perfect sense. That's right, we were going to talk about defense barrier. Defense barrier also makes a lot of sense for this type of character. Here, check this out. Let's go down to it. Costs 3 mana. It's a reaction. It's expensive, but the Illithid had this available as basically like a ward of energy. But I could see the Frost, the Winter Walker, basically creating a sheet of frosted ice that you can't see through. As a reaction to a source you can see targeting you with an attack, you create a momentary opaque barrier, granting you full cover against the attack, causing it to automatically miss unless it ignores full cover. The barrier disappears at the beginning of your next turn. So you erect this temporary floating barrier that provided full cover against the attack that was coming in, and that sets your angle. So you then have to flank around the barrier to be able to see your target to shoot at them. If you don't move your position, you're not going to get rid of the cover. So you are forced to move to navigate around the cover to be able to see your target. So it's a great reaction. It's a fun little reaction power. And again, it ends at the beginning of your next turn. So it's useful throughout the round. That's a really cool example of like creating like a sheet of ice to protect you, for instance. That's good narrative there. And then what's the last bit we're going to use? I don't know. Let's find out. Oh, telekinetic bubble. Choose a creature up to large size that you can see. It becomes trapped within a resilient sphere as per the spell. The creature can dex save to end the effect at the end of each of its turns, or you can dismiss it early. For 2 mana, it costs 4 mana to activate it. And for 2 extra mana, the target can be huge. And for 4 extra mana, it can be gargantuan up to 20 feet in size. So, like, the Tarrasque is still too big to fit inside of it. But if it fits inside 20 feet, you got it. That telekinetic bubble basically becomes like a ball of ice. Like an ice globe that you trap a target in, or you yourself get inside of to create protection that you can roll around inside of. Telekinetic bubble. I love that. It's a maneuver. That's a 4th rank maneuver. So I could do it as an action, bonus action. I can do it twice in the same round if I wanted to. Ah, that's super fun. Okay, so that's the Winter Walker. This guy's a badass. Holy fuck. I really like the Winter Walker. This guy is super cool. So we're going to leave him there. And we're going to, instead, now we're going to go back up to the top. And we're going to start working our way down. Again, the Forsaken subclasses are all the Ranger subclasses that did not graduate to the 2024 mechanics that were left behind in 2014. Drake Warden. Hollow Warden is new from the UA, from the Horror UA. Horizon Walker is Forsaken. Monster Slayer was Forsaken. Swarm Keeper was Forsaken. And then we just did Winter Walker. So the subclasses that graduated in 2024, those include Beastmaster, Fey Wanderer, Gloomstalker, and Hunter. So these should be complete, but we're doing this pass through to make sure that the powers that they gain or the spells that they have are appropriate. And we want to reread the class features to see if language or sensibilities have changed since the last time we looked at this a few months ago. So we're going to go through that process now. It is 7:54. I'm going to be back tomorrow at lunch to continue working on this. So what I think we're going to do is we'll get through the Beastmaster. We'll see where I'm at, because I still have some artwork to do tonight for the Eberron adventure that will be continuing. I'm doing tree tokens, basically. There's 20 different tree tokens I need to make for a pine forest. And we're painting a pine forest scene in the mornings, Monday through Friday, I do artwork for whatever book I'm working on. Right now, the book I'm working on is Eberron, an Eberron adventure, and it's set in the Carnwood, so it's in a tree forest. If we go far enough north, we might actually run across Winter Walkers. That'd be cool, but it's not part of the adventure. But a Winter Walker would be appropriate in the far north reaches of the Carnwood. That would actually make a lot of sense. So anyway, I'm building these tokens off stream because I got a shitload of them to do, and it's boring to watch. So it's just production. So I'm doing that in the evening. So I need time to do that before I have to crash for the night. So I think what I'm going to do is get through the Beastmaster, and we'll see if I have enough oomph left to work the Fey Wanderer. And at that point, we'll check to see where we're at and where my endurance is. And knowing that we're going to come back tomorrow and pick up where we left off tonight. So not tomorrow morning, tomorrow at lunch, like around 2 o'clock Seattle time. So it's 8 o'clock Seattle time now. So like in 18 hours. Is that right? 18 hours? Yeah, 18 hours we'll be back to work on this some more. So let's look at it. Conclaves of Power. Rangers gain all subclasses features with the below modifications. Beastmaster level. So the Beastmaster and the players. Let's crack open the 2024 mechanics for the Ranger. I fucking love the Ranger with these rebuilds. I love the Ranger. I love how well the class features and like the subclass features, how well they bend into the Mark of Prey mechanics and the strike power mechanics that we have just built into the martial power system. It just really feels complementary. Hold on, I want to fix my window down here. There we go. So thanks a lot for hanging out, guys. People that are checking out the channel. Again, if you aren't familiar already, here's the playtest document that I'm using. It's read-only. You can still use the Control F find function to find specific things, and it's literally got all 14 classes built from level 1 to 20, including all the subclasses. Most of them are complete. There's a couple straggling bits that aren't done. But that's why we're going through this process right now, to make sure all of it's 100% there. And so if this is interesting to you and you decide to use it in your game, or your DM lets you use it in your game, my Discord channel is also down below. Reach out, say, hey, what's going on? Here's my Discord community. And eventually, once I get all this mana stuff done for all 14 classes, we'll be using my Patreon to build specific kits. So additional player content and articles here on my Patreon channel. So this will eventually, like the Echo Knight, for instance, that's not actually Wizards' own content. That's Darrington Press. So I could make like a free Echo Knight document using the power system and publish that through my Patreon, and I would have to make it fan content so that anyone would be able to have access to it. So if you want to follow me on Patreon, my goal is to get all this stuff built so that I can start cracking out magic cards as character kits, magic items, creatures, locations, spells, powers, and subclass options, and take different components like a Witherbloom Sedge Witch, for example, could be a really cool subclass for like a Warlock or a Druid, for instance. They have the same scaffolding, so I can do that. So I could build a Sedge Witch subclass, like Strixhaven style subclass that could work for multiple character classes that are all inside of the Witherbloom school, for instance. That wouldn't be something I would bother making on the DMsGuild because it would never sell. It's just bloat because it's so niche. Why the fuck would you buy that? I'll just put it on my Patreon so that people that are interested can casually take a look at it. And then I get to brag about my Patreon a little bit. So, I mean, hey, fun stuff, right? So anyway, here, and then of course, here's a whole bunch of books that I've created on DMsGuild already. All the mana stuff for Magic the Gatherings right here. And it all has free preview. So be welcome to read it. So, back on track. Looking at the Ranger, right? Looking at the Ranger. 2024 Ranger, here's our build. Let's kick down to the Beastmaster just in case we need to fetch something from it. Like I didn't copy
the text from Beast of the Land, Beast of the Sea, Beast of the Sky. These stats are still relevant and they're fine. I would need to it'd be 13 plus your channeling ability modifier, because it could be strength, dexterity, or wisdom, your choice. Hit points would be 5 times your ranger's level. That's fine. Yeah, all this stuff is fine. Those are fine. We'll eventually update them, but I don't feel the need to do it right now. Maybe like when we're doing our last pass before we hand it off to an editor, like 6 months or so from now, we'll add this stuff in. But for now, all we really need to do is have the subclass features. First off, for some fucking reason, the Beastmaster doesn't get any bonus spells. There's a you can't even give him beast sense or like speak with animals. Like wouldn't those like make sense as a Beastmaster? It's a shame to see them missing. Yeah, but no, all you do is get combat options for your pet. So taking that under advisement, if we need to reference the document, here it is, so we can pick at it. But here's what we have so far. Since it didn't get any bonus spells, they get 10 powers. If they had gotten 10 spells, they wouldn't get any powers. If they get 5 spells, they also get 5 powers. All the classes get 23 powers or spells, and they get 10 bonus spells or powers, depending. So all classes at 20th level has 33 things that they can have, spells or powers or whatever. So it's even, because these powers really do keep up. I mean, they're a spammable lower impact, less Nova sort of impact thing, but you can spam them a lot during combat. So they end up having, it's like your 5th level, like I would say that the top ranked stuff that we have in here is probably equal to like a 3rd or 4th level spell for like a wizard or a cleric. So being able to basically spam like dozens of these a day at like 3rd or 4th level feels like what you can do with spell points with a wizard that limited themselves to 3rd or 4th level spells. Like a wizard gets 80 mana at 20th level, and on a short rest can get 10 back. So they effectively have 90 mana over the course of a single long rest period. And a 3rd level spell, they would literally be able to spam 30 spells of 3rd level across a long rest, if that's all you were doing as a 20th level wizard. A Beastmaster at 17th, 18th level, like any ranger at 17th plus level, would feel similar to that. So it's a lot of power that you can just keep pounding away at. Just keep hitting every round. Big, like just these 3rd, 4th level effects every round, if that's all you want to focus on doing. Like Cone of Cold we saw. That's a 5th level spell, right? Well, we could use our bonus action to pay for 3 of the points, and then spend 2 points from our mana pool, of which we have 20 on a short rest. I could do 10 of those before taking a short rest. And then I could still do, by sacrificing my bonus action beyond that, I could still generate 3 points of mana to use with my attacks as a reaction with my movement. A lot of shit I can do. Literally every round I can produce a 3rd level effect. If you're going to have 20 rounds of combat per day, as would be recommended under the normal pacing of a 2014 adventure, you're basically at 17th level, you're basically popping, 10 or so 3rd level spell effects, 20 spell level effects over the course of 20 rounds, which would be what the wizard could do with 90 mana if that's all they spent it on. So the math actually paces out pretty well, that all classes are capable of basically spamming out 20, 30 some odd 3rd level spells per long rest, depending on how many short rests you take. So it's actually very comparable. So I like that. I'm really, really proud that we found that balancing point. So they all feel like full casters with those 9th level spells can Nova. They can just like pop big effects and do shitloads of damage or have massive impacts in the game, while marshals can just crack out that 3rd level effect like every round if they want. Every round. It's just, that's that sustainable power that they keep talking about marshals are supposed to have. But by being able to have that mana kicker on it, it actually feels like they're powerful characters. As you go up in levels, you can just do these powerful things more and more often, until by 20th level, you can just do them all the time, because your mana battery will allow for it. So super fun. Anyway, I'll digress. Beastmaster, it should be fully translated. We're just spot checking shit right now. Here's our first change, because we automatically get Martial Strike as a ranger now, so we don't need it as a bonus spell for the Beastmaster. Bait and Switch, Breath of Life, these should be effective still. Let's go check them out. Bait and Switch is a maneuver. Breath of Life is an exploit. So let's start there and work our way forward. Breath of Life. When you make an ability check to stabilize a dying creature, you automatically succeed. And the target gains a number of hit points equal to the result of one power die roll. Equal to the result of, it's an exploit, let's see, equal to, let's see, when you make an ability check to stabilize a dying creature, you automatically succeed, and the target gains a number of hit points equal to the result of one power die rolled per mana expended. I don't know why I didn't have that in there. It's a first rank power, so you only need 1 mana, but you could spend up to 5 mana at 17th level, so you'd roll 5d10, and that's how many hit points that you would get as part of being healed. It's basically a 5th level. It's basically a 5th level Revivify spell at that point with a hit point kicker. Only useful when you're dying. So you gotta die to get the benefit, but when you need it, it's super useful. That lets the DM hit as hard as they want, knowing that you can pop up from the effect. Breath of Life, Bait and Switch is a maneuver. Let's go check it out. Oh, what happened to it? Hold on. Was this one of the ones that we removed a while ago? Looks like that might be a second thing we have to replace. Hold on. Let's double check, because it could be a reaction. We may have swapped it to reaction. There it is, reaction. Bait and Switch. Triggering condition. A willing creature is within 5 feet of you. And the result is you can spend 1 mana to switch places with the creature. Switching places this way doesn't provoke opportunity attacks, nor does it cause an attack to fail. In addition, roll 1 power die per mana spent this way. Until the start of your next turn, you or the target creature gains a bonus to AC equal to the highest power die result. So if I spent 5 mana on Bait and Switch at 17th level, I could roll 5 10-sided dice, but I would only keep the highest result and add that to my AC. This is a reaction. So until the start of your next turn, you or the target creature gains a bonus to armor class equal to the highest power die result. That's super useful to be able to give it to somebody else. It starts with a D6, so on average it's going to be +3. Not as good as a shield spell, but you can give it to somebody else. So Bait and Switch is super cool. Coordinated attack, that's a maneuver. Bait and Switch, you can use that with your pet. Beastmaster, have a pet. So Savage Attacker lets you re-roll a die when you hit. Bait and Switch, you can use that with your pet. Breath of Life, you could use that with your pet. If it drops to 0, instead of having it banished, you could just Breath of Life it instead. Coordinated Attack, you can use that with your pet. And it goes like this. Coordinated Attack. You can empower 1 ally per mana expended this way, say your pet, that you can see or hear, to use their reaction to make a weapon attack, which could be like their bite. Rolling 1 power die per mana expended this way, adding the highest result to the attack against the target you and your ally can see. So I could pop a point of mana, point at my pet, say, Chopper, sick balls. And then at first level, third level is a Beastmaster, roll a D6. And I would add D6 to the attack roll for Chopper to bite, Chopper to sick balls. And there you go. Chopper would use his reaction. He gets to add D6 to sicking balls. There you go. Savage Attacker. How about we switch? Let's take Breath of Life and drop it to first. Let's take Coordinated Attack. And because these are all first rank powers anyway. You don't have to use a first rank, second rank, third rank, fourth rank, fifth rank power at levels 1, 5, 9, 13, 17. We only have 172 powers, and I don't want to bloat it with extra powers just to flesh out 1 through 5. Instead, pick the powers that make sense at the level that you're getting them, that correspond and complement the features that you get for your subclass. So coordinated attack at 5th level makes sense. Like Savage Attacker is a feat, and you can get feats as powers. You just don't get the stat bonus, but you don't have prerequisites either. So Savage Attacker as a feat is great at 3rd. Breath of Life we just looked at, that's fantastic for keeping your pet alive instead of having to spend mana you don't necessarily have to bring it back. Breath of Life is a better solution to your pet dying than having to create a new one because it's less expensive. Coordinated Attack, first rank maneuver, you just saw that, chopper sick balls. Then we have coordinated dash as well. So coordinated dash, also maneuver 1. Unfortunately, it also requires a reaction, but we'll see by 9th level we can have more than 1 reaction per round. So you could have chopper dash, chopper sick balls. Use 1 reaction and then the next. You can empower 1 ally per mana expended this way that you can see or hear you to use their reaction to move up to half their speed without provoking attacks. So on my turn, I could have chopper dash, and then I could use coordinated attack on somebody else's turn as a reaction. If I hold my action, I could then use coordinated attack as a reaction during somebody else's turn, whoever comes within range of Chopper's new position on the battlefield. See how that works? Not bad. Not bad. But I could do that with anybody. I can do that with any ally, the Paladin, or that Barbarian over there, or that Umberhulk that we charmed. Like any of them could use this stuff. Bait and switch, we already looked at that, and rally we have not looked at, but rally with bait and switch makes a lot of sense. So let's take a look at why. These are reactions. Let's get down to maneuvers. There we go. Rally, there we go. You and 1 ally that you can see gains a number of temporary hit points equal to the total of 1 power die rolled for each point of mana expended this way. You and 1 ally that you can see gains a number of temporary hit points equal to the total of 1 power die rolled for each point of mana expended this way. So if I were to this is for like the purpose of like wild shape and polymorph. Those spells are like, while you still have temporary hit points, this you can retain your alternate form. And temporary hit points, they replace, they overlap, they don't add. So once your temporary hit point starts dropping, you need a new source of temporary hit points to boost them back up. Otherwise, your spell is coming to an end. So like when you have a druid in your party that's wild shaping into like an owlbear or whatever, having an ally that has the rally ability is able to give temporary hit points both to yourself and your druid who's barreling into combat and taking temporary hit points of damage. It's going to force their wild shape to drop sooner than you would want it to. So you can rally them so they can keep getting temporary hit points to sustain the effect longer than they would have on their own without you. Because it's not hit points, it's just temporary hit points that they get in their wild shape form. Which is because you can't heal temporary hit points. It's a neat little loophole there. I like that mechanic. And I love that we have so many ways of giving you temporary hit points. Like multi-classing druid, like while you're wild shape, you can use your mana pool to channel powers. It's not spell casting. You don't need material components or verbal components or somatics. You just do the thing and it happens. So wild shaping plus martial powers equals a crazy fucking powerful gish. Druid Ranger is a like a night. It's hard to say when to pull the trigger on that sort of stuff, but like Ranger 3, Druid 6 is a really good breaking point for 3rd level. The Ranger is still getting half levels in spell casting, so a 3rd level Ranger is at least contributing 1 point towards spell casting, and 6 levels of Druid, that would be a 7th level caster, so you get 4th level spell slots as a Druid, be able to prepare 3rd level spells as a Druid, and still have access to 1st rank powers as a marshal, giving you access to rally, which you could use to boost your own temporary hit points while you're wild shaping, and giving it to, like, say, the barbarian or the paladin that's tanking hits with you on the front line to protect your back line from getting molested. So a lot of really cool Gish synergy exists inside the system. It's just homebrew that's been slow cooked for a very long time. We've literally been working on this off and on for like 16 months now, and we've been playtesting it for over a year. And that's, anyone can kick out a PDF document in home brewery like in a day or two. But for you to build something that really works well and complements the game engine, for me, it takes a really long time to brew up something super solid. But the more time you spend brewing it, the more playtesting you have, the more you can see how these things synergize together to make really fucking cool shit. But I'm a 3rd edition kind of guy. I mean, I've been playing since Redbox, but 3rd edition was my favorite because of the deck building quality of the 3rd edition characters and the prestige classes. Like, you would build your character and take prerequisites so that you could build into a specific prestige class that let you make your character work differently than they would have on their own. That was a real excitement about, like, the deck building aspect of character creation. 3rd edition just completely changed how the game was. Because until then, from 2nd edition to Redbox, it was, I'm playing a fighter. What's different about you? Basically, what kind of sword do I swing? And then they added kits in 2nd edition, which is like a background, which is like D&D 5e backgrounds. So you get this kit that gives you like this kicker effect and some little proficiencies, but not a lot going for it. And that was basically it. Like, all your fighters were basically the same except for the kit that they took and what weapon they used. Otherwise, they were basically the same as everyone else until 3rd edition completely changed character building into its own game, where you could just craft characters. Just, let's build a character. Let's play with, like, what's the highest sneak score that we can get by combining different class features or whatever. It was a deck building game. Some of it was just theoretical, just system breaking shit just to do it. Others was actual, like, practical guides of, like, I want to be really good at countering magic. What kind of a mage slayer multi-class dippable build could we make that borrows from all these other all these prestige classes and alternate class features to be able to build something that just absolutely fucking shuts mages down? And you could build something similar to this, like with an abjurist white wizard mixed in with like a battle master that focuses on on mage killer powers and feats. So again, it's just finding the combinations and tweaking them. Like, somebody on Dice Try's channel is interested in an Abzan artificer druid that focuses on creating undead and controlling them. Like Spore Druid and Artificer Reanimator, having those subclasses working together inside of the mana build. It's going to give you a fat pool of mana. It's going to give you magical item creations that you want, so you can make destruction, like mana bombs for your Artificer character. Mix it in with all the stuff that a druid can do, and then you have your your spore zombies that you can create with your druid. So now you have spore zombies, and your Artificer can use powers to buff and keep those spore zombies alive on top of the reanimated corpses that the Artificer can also craft during downtime. It's like really cool synergy in there. I'm looking forward to building that. I've been letting it kind of percolate, but I'm going to probably on Friday, I'll probably do, we'll have the Ranger done by Thursday. So I think on Friday, we're going to build the Abzan Artificer Druid Reanimator, as was suggested on Dice Try's channel. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be on Friday. But back to it. So Savage Attacker, Breath of Life, Coordinated Attack, Coordinated Dash, Bait and Switch, Rally, Allied Assault. Second rank, you and all allies gain advantage to attack a chosen creature you can see until the beginning of your next turn. So all of your attacks have advantage for 2 mana. That might need to be 3rd rank. Maybe. I'll think about it. It's pretty good. It's just giving people advantage. And there's plenty of ways to get disadvantage. This just basically neutralizes disadvantage. and helps your rogue. But I don't think it's broken unto itself. We've only just started seeing allied assault being used by our rogue in our party this week. So we'll look at that. We'll hopefully see that a little bit more and see if it's worth the 2 mana it takes to use it. Frenzied attack is 4th rank, sustained power, and then moving target is a reaction at 2nd. So let's go take a look at moving target reaction. Moving target. As a reaction to when a creature you can see moves into or within the reach of your melee weapon, you can make a weapon attack even if the target is using the disengage action, rolling 1 power die per mana channel, adding the highest result to the attack roll. So it's 2 mana to use this, but it's basically the Sentinel feat for use with any weapon. And again, if you're a ranger using a longbow, at 6th level, you can target them with your bow within 10 feet. You can use moving target while they're within 10 feet of you. Even if they're using disengage, you shut that down. Ugh, not bad. Now, yeah, you can hit them just for moving around or getting close to you. Not bad. I like that. And then Frenzied Attack is the last one. That's a sustained power. At 13th level, you can sustain 4 mana. At 17th level, you can sustain a total of 5 mana. Frenzied Attack takes 4 of them. So it's expensive, but let's take a look at it, see if you think it's worth it. Frenzied Attack. While sustaining this power, you gain 1 additional attack when you take the attack action, and you gain advantage on all attack rolls. Whether it's as part of your attack action, whether it's a bonus attack, nick, an opportunity attack, all of your attack rolls are at advantage. This extra attack can be used to generate temporary mana. So if you decide to sacrifice attacks during your attack action to generate mana to use as a bonus action, this is giving you an extra point. This also gives rogues a second chance. So because rogues normally don't get a second attack. This is expensive, but it gives them that second attack to be able to try that land, that sneak attack during their turn. I need to reorder the words on it though. While sustaining this power, you gain 1 additional attack when you take the attack action. This extra attack, which can be used, I should change that to comma, which can be used to generate temporary mana. In addition, you gain advantage on all attack rolls. There you go. So, Frenzied Attack. Now that we know what our bonus features are, let's look what the actual Beast Companion can do. You magically summon a primal beast using one of the stat blocks of the beast of land, sea, air, as described above in the player's handbook. Here. You also determine the kind of animal it is, choosing a kind appropriate for the stat block. Whatever beast you choose, it bears primal markings indicating its supernatural origin. The beast is friendly to you and your allies and obeys your commands. It vanishes if you die. In combat, the beast acts during your turn. It can move and use its reaction on its own in tandem with you, but the only action it can take is the dodge action unless you use an action to command it to take any other action listed on the stat block. Unless you use... in combat, the beast acts during your turn. It can move and use its reaction on its own in tandem with you, but the only action it can take is the dodge action unless you issue an order unless you use a bonus action to command it to take any other action listed in the stat blocks or some other action. You can also sacrifice your bonus action on one of your attacks per round when you take the attack action to command your beast to make an attack, which is already something it can do. That's redundant. If you have the incapacity condition, the beast acts on its own and isn't limited to the dodge action. In addition, You gain the following options with your animal companion. You can take damage for your companion using your own hit points while you can see your companion. Companion natural attacks qualify as melee weapons of 1 or more copper pieces in value to qualify for feats and spells that are considered unarmed attacks for use with feats, features, and other options that require these specific attacks. Like, for example, your wolf that you summon that has a piercing bite attack, if you have the Piercer feat, you could use the Piercer feat through your dog to sick balls. A hawk that you summon might have slashing damage with its claws, and you could use the Slasher feat. You could summon a turtle, and it has a bludgeoning attack that you could use the Crusher feat with, for instance. You can expend 2 mana to resummon your companion, or if it's killed in the past hour, you can instead bring it back to life with full hit points. Alternatively, you can perform a 10-minute ritual to resummon your companion. Also, level 3 shared power. As you gain levels, you can channel powers through your companion and its attacks. At 3rd level, you gain the following features. Your companion benefits from your mark of prey, and you can channel strikes through your companion's attacks. You can use temporary mana generated by empowered actions in addition to using your mana as normal. You can use temporary mana generated by empowered actions in addition. As you gain levels, you can channel powers through your companion and its attacks. So your companion benefits from Mark of Prey. You can sacrifice your companion's action to generate 1 point of temporary mana that you can use to channel a power or ranger spell. So if you were to make a Wither Bloom Ranger, and you summoned as your land creature a pest, you could then use your pest, tap your pest, use its attack action to generate a point of mana that you could then use to create with, because it can take an action, right? And it'll use any action, and so you can sacrifice that action to generate mana. Actually, let's do it this way. When you sacrifice your bonus action to generate mana, you can also sacrifice your companion's action. Because if you're going to sacrifice your bonus action to generate mana, you can't do anything with your beast, because your beast requires you to use a bonus action to activate. So by using your bonus action to generate temporary mana instead, you're not going to use your pet, so you may as well use your pet as a Llanowar elf, tap it for it to generate additional mana on top of it with you. It's a resource you have that you aren't using because you're generating mana. So let's give you an extra point of mana to generate, so that between you and your pet, you can create more mana. It's like having a permanent Llanowar elf. You can target your companion separately with a sustained power, tapping mana separately for your companion. You can sustain the same power for yourself and your companion this way up to your maximum rank of power. For instance, I didn't word that well. You can target you can sustain the same power. We can't do that. I need to shift that. Hold on. That needs to be at a higher level, because at 3rd level we can only power 1 rank. So let's look at 7th level. Exceptional training. You can now use your bonus action to command your companion to take the dash, disengage, or dodge action. In addition, You can now use any number of attacks during the attack action to command your companion to attack instead of making your own. Furthermore, let's see. You can now use your bonus action to command your companion to take the dash, dodge, disengage action. In addition, you can now use... in addition, when you take the attack action, any number of attacks can be any number of these attacks can be made by your pet instead of you. Furthermore, when a companion hits a creature, you can use a bonus action. When a companion hits a creature, you can use a bonus action to mark that target as your prey as part of the attack. Let's see. Exceptional training. I need to change the format. How does this word? Your bond with your pet strengthens, granting these additional features. You can now use your bonus action to command your companion to dash, dodge, disengage. In addition, when you take the attack action, any number of these attacks can be made by your pet instead of you. When a companion hits a creature, you can use a bonus action to mark that target as your prey as part of the attack. You can sustain the same power for yourself and your companion. Hold on. Wait. Let's go back up to the ranger and recall when does mark of prey click in. Fighting styles. In addition, when you mark a creature as your prey with a bonus action, you can make an attack with your second weapon against your prey as part of the same bonus action. Ranged prowess, level 6. You can make opportunity attacks with thrown weapons against ranged target within 10 feet of you. Use reach power, and in addition, you can mark the target you hit with a you can mark. Oh, I don't need that there because only range prowess doesn't have any bonus action stuff going on like the dual fighter does. But that, yeah, the dual fighter is there at level 6. You can use your bonus action to hit and automatically mark the target that you hit. So, using that frame of reference, dropping down the Beastmaster. Look at that, level 7. Your companion hits. You can use a bonus action to mark that target as your prey as part of the attack. There you go. Clicks in right when it should at level 6. 7 here for the exceptional training, but that's in curve with the power. You can sustain the same power. Let's see. In addition, let's move this. Improve share power. Your bond with your pet intensifies, granting the following features. You can choose to channel any exploit or reaction you have prepared through your companion. Whew, man, we're getting a lot of shit. Shared power. Exceptional training. You can choose to channel any exploit. Let's see. Yeah. You can sustain. You can target your pet with a sustained power, expending mana separately from any powers you're sustaining on yourself. This counts towards the max rank, the total number of mana sustained. For example, I could take Power or Shield for 1 mana for myself, and I could spend another point of mana for Power Shield for my animal companions, so that we both gain a floating magical shield that protects us from attacks. We'd have to pay for them separately, but by level 5 I could do it with both. This clicks in at level 7. Beast Companion, Shared Power, Exceptional Training, Gestalt Teamwork. When taking the attack action, you gain a 3rd attack that can only be used to command your animal companion to attack. Yeah, that's good. Let's see. Mark of Prey, you can channel strikes through companion attacks. Level 7, we can also do exploits, reactions, and sustained powers. Level 11, Gestalt Teamwork. You and your pet act as one, gaining the following features. When taking the attack action, you gain a 3rd attack that can be used, that can only be used to command your companion to attack. And you can choose to use a magic action or bonus action to channel any maneuver powers you know through your companion, which is important because it has a different location. So like you could have your companion hanging out with your wizard on the back rank as a guardian, and if your wizard is being approached, you can use bait and switch to have your companion switch positions with the wizard and give your wizard like a +8 to their armor class so that they're really freaking safe. And if they really wanted to, they could dump shield in on top of it for an extra +5 to ramp that wizard to a 13, but it's going to eat a lot of action economy, not a lot of mana, but a lot of action economy between you and the wizard to keep that wizard from getting hit by attacks. Super useful. You can use a magic action or bonus action to channel any maneuver power you know through your companion. Yep. You can choose to channel through your companion. Yeah. Then 15 is twin companions and perfected. Let's see. Gestalt teamwork. I want to reword that. Gestalt teamwork. It's not perfected shared power. It's let's call it 2 bodies. One soul. So not to get ahead of ourselves. 15, twin companions. As a 2nd rank sustained power, you can summon and command a 2nd companion. The power ends when you dismiss the pet, or it's reduced to 0 hit points. You can use your attacks when you take the attack action to order either companion to attack. So now you're running around with two critters at 15th level. 2 bodies, 1 soul. When you channel a sustained power or maintain concentration on a spell, your companions benefit from the effects as well without expending extra mana. So both of your pets and you will benefit from this all at the same time. That is, in my opinion, that's freaking sick. I love that. So, but I also feel like I'm about out of energy. It's 8:40. This has been a nice long run. I'm going to go ahead and cut now and get a little bit of artwork in. When we come back tomorrow, continue here. So I'll be back. What is it? 8:40. I'll probably be back on around 2:30. That's 18 hours from now. So here in Seattle, it's 8:40. It'll be 2:30 in the afternoon in Seattle, which is 5:30 East Coast. Seattle is -8 UTC. So yeah, tomorrow morning we'll do more Eberron art. Tomorrow at lunch we'll start in on the Fey Wanderer and do similar treatment. So we have the Fey Wanderer, we have the Gloomstalker. We'll probably get through both of those at lunch tomorrow. And then Thursday night we'll have Hunter, Drake Warden, Hollow Warden, Horizon Walker, Monster Slayer, Swarmkeeper. I've got 6 subclasses to do on Thursday night. Okay, that's going to be a lot. So we'll see if we can get there. Maybe I'll do a little prep work in advance to help streak through that process. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to be back tomorrow. If you think this stuff is cool, I'm just going to wrap up now. So like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications when we're live in the future. Again, this playtest document is here. All of the 100 some odd episodes of the Martial Powers development from front to now is here. There's also other color mana language here. My Discord community to ask questions is here. Be welcome to drop comments below as well if you want. Here's a bunch of books that I've published on the DMsGuild. They all have free preview. The Magic the Gathering 5 color mana spell point variant rules. It's like 7 books. All of them are full preview. So be welcome to check those out to see where this is all coming from. And then if you check out this playtest document, it's got all 14 classes updated for 2024 mechanics and all the subclasses updated to 2024 mechanics, sensibilities, utilizing the current mana system that we have in place. And we'll eventually be breaking this all down into PDF documents, replacing the ones that are online now. We'll be seeing updated versions, updated formatting, updated art. We're completely rebuilding the books from scratch using 2024 rules because it's that much more better. Really excited about this progress. If you think this shit's cool, again, like, subscribe, and thanks a lot for being interested. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I'll see you guys on the other side. See you tomorrow. Cheers.